Hello everyone, it's SpawnPoiint and welcome to my 2022 room tour, and this is the video where I show you everything in my setup. This includes the TV area, the gaming desk setup, the shelves, and how I've combined them all into one room. I have put the timestamps and links to everything below, so if there is something you like, you can check that out. Well, I hope you enjoy my living room / gaming setup tour today, but if I did miss anything, drop your questions below and I will get back to you. First up, let me show you the TV setup, as I feature this area quite a lot on the channel. Any TV unboxings or videos related to the PlayStation 5 or the Xbox are usually shown on here. So I'm using the 77-inch LG C1 OLED, which has been absolutely awesome and is literally the best TV that I've ever owned. The picture quality still blows me away every time that I use it, and it's perfect for movies and gaming. Now, the reason I chose the C1 over anything else wasn't just for the awesome picture quality, but for the incredible gaming modes. So the C1 actually has full HDMI 2.1 support for the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, and that includes VRR, 4K and 120Hz capability. And as I game probably 80% of my time from here, the TV needed to be decent enough for it. I often get asked how far do I sit from the TV. Well, I sit around 10 feet from the screen, which is probably the closest you'd ever want to be from a 77-inch. It definitely feels immersive when watching movies or playing games, but it is awesome as well. You'll notice that behind the TV I've got some RGB lighting. Now, this is not part of the TV, so it does not react to what's on the screen, but it does create a nice glow and it is fully customizable through an app. So these are actually called the LifeX Z strips, and they are stuck on the back with 3M tape. I'm actually using 5 meters of them here. Now, they don't look particularly tidy back here, but they do look awesome when they're on. During the day, I usually have them set to a clean white glow. That just brightens up the wall behind the TV. But it's at night where these lights really shine. They completely transform the room. Now, although I usually show my setup with the clean white lights on, I actually have these RGB lights on almost every single night. Apart from when I'm watching movies, I usually have them off or very low. So I've wall mounted my TV on an arm from Envision. I've had this arm for about 5 years now, and I've used it on about 5 different TVs. It can actually hold up to 40 kilos, and as it swivels and moves, it means I can pull the TV right out to get to the plugs or the ports. And talking about the plugs, I actually had these wall sockets put in back in 2019 when I redesigned the room. So I don't know how long you've been following me for, but I used to have the TV in the corner of the room just over here. Then a few years ago, I decided to knock out the chimney part of the wall and move the entire setup over. While I was at it, I had some plugs fitted and some trunking put inside the wall for my cable management. So this cable management hole in the wall is how I hide all of the cables that go from the TV down to the cabinet. A lot ask me how I have no cables on show. Well, this is how I do it. It keeps the setup looking tidy, as you can't see any wires at all. And as I put the trunking in the wall, I can easily swap the cables out when I need to. So under the TV, I've got this wooden AV unit. Now, this was custom made for me back in 2015, way before I had my YouTube or Instagram account. I designed it to hold all of the gear that I had at the time, but it's lasted me a lot longer than I expected. I actually hand drew it, mocked it up in Photoshop, then I found a local joiner to build it for me. I then painted it and I slotted it into the corner. Since then, it's moved slightly to the left and I made a door to cover up the speaker hole that I used to have. Now, this unit is stupidly heavy and it's solid as well. I can stand on it and it won't flex, and I've even had 86-inch TVs on here without issue. In this little shelf, I've got some wooden PlayStation icons. Now, these were custom made by Geek Made Designs, a company that makes loads of different gaming accessories out of wood. They do now sell these on their website too if you wanted to check them out. Next to that, there's my center channel, and this is a monitor audio bronze speaker, and it's part of a 5.1 kit. This speaker is essentially where the dialogue or the voices come from while you're watching TV. Then finally, you've got the PlayStation 5, and this is the disc version complete with the official midnight black plates. I definitely play this more than anything else I have in my setup, and it looks awesome on the LG C1. But I also use the PlayStation 5 over on my desk setup, so I will talk more about the PS5 later once we move over to that. Now let me show you what I'm hiding inside the unit. This is all of the gear and accessories I don't normally show, but I've still tried to keep it tidy. So I've got my AV receiver, which powers my speaker setup, and this is an Onkyo AVR that I've had for a few years now. I also have a magic eye that's stuck to the front of the speaker. This repeats the signal from outside the cabinet to inside when the doors are closed, and that allows me to control everything inside. Next to the AVR, I've got a Nintendo Switch, and this is the original model, so it's pretty tired looking, but it's docked most of the time and used with the TV. Then these are all of the physical games that I currently have. I actually buy most of my games digitally, but I have got a few PS4 and PS5 games and discs. And here's my Switch collection, so there's not many here and most of them are used by my children. It's weird because I only buy physical games for the Switch, but I buy digital for everything else. Now, the Steelbooks are my favourite games in the collection that I have. The newest is the 25th anniversary GT7, which is awesome. But I actually think my favourite steelbook that I have so far is probably the Spider-Man. I think the artwork is really nice on this. I then got a few others including Cyberpunk, Days Gone and The Last of Us Part 2. As I say, I do buy most of my games digitally. It's just easier and more convenient for me to play and store my games this way. And that's why I recently upgraded to a 4TB SSD in the PS5. On the top shelf, I've got a couple of Switch cases from Satisfy, and this is where I actually store the games as well. Now I didn't film this, but I also use the Satisfy grips with the Switch, and it makes a huge difference with how you hold it. And here are a couple of faceplates for the Xbox Series X controller from Scuff. I don't swap them often, but it means I can change the colour of the controller if I wanted to. Next to that, we've got an Apple TV 4K, and this is the most recent version that launched last year. This lets you stream movies and AirPlay and access the Apple Arcade from the TV. And these two little white boxes here are for my home heating system with Hive and the Philips Hue bridge. Now although I'm using LifeX lights around the house, I do still have a few Philips Hue bulbs as well. And finally I have an 8-port gigabit network switch, and this is what I use to provide a wired connection to the TV, the AVR and all of the games consoles in the setup. And inside this little door on the right is where I charge my controllers. I've only ever got 2 PlayStation 5 or 2 Xbox controllers in here, but it means I can keep them charging and out of sight. I mentioned that I'm using a Monitor Audio Bronze Center channel speaker. Well, that forms part of a 5.1 system. I've had these for a few years now and they sound absolutely incredible. They're hooked up to the Onkyo AVR that I have in the cabinet and they are perfect for anything I play through them, music, movies or gaming. I've got the 2 front speakers either side of the TV and these are the bronze 2s. The right one is sitting on this mission stand at around 60 centimeters tall, while the left one is on the shelf. Both of these speakers are at the same height, which is purely coincidental. I did actually buy these metal stands as a pair, but I quite like the asymmetrical look here, plus it gives me room for my sub. And this is a new addition, it's something that I only added a couple of weeks ago. And this replaces an Onkyo sub that I used to have behind the sofa, but I wanted something bigger and better. So here it is, this is a Monitor Audio Bronze W10 sub. And like with the speakers, I've taken the covers off because I think they look so much better this way. Around the back I've got the Bronze 1 speakers and these are sitting on some wall brackets that I fitted. The cables are a little untidy though and it's definitely something that I need to sort. But yeah, combined, this 5.1 system kicks out some serious sound. The clarity and the bass is just awesome. It's on a whole different level to anything I've had before. Fortunately, I live in a detached house, so annoying the neighbours isn't something that I need to worry about. Oh, and next to the front speaker, I've got this real plant in a white plant pot. I can't remember the name of the plant now, I think it's called a snake plant. Looking at the consoles I'm currently using with my setup, I've got the Xbox Series X here, which is used most of the time for games like Forza. Anything that I can get on Game Pass, I will play on this console. A lot of you ask me, how is the Xbox even connected to the TV? Well, I have an HDMI cable that goes from the Xbox, under the carpet, up and through the wall and into the back of the TV. I could have put the Xbox in the cabinet, but I like the look of it on the shelf. Next to that, we've got the Xbox Series S. Now, this isn't used a great deal actually. It was bought originally for my children to use so I could use the Xbox Series X, but so far that's not happened. Eventually, I will move the Series S into a different room, but for now it just sits on the shelf. Then we have the OLED switch, and this is actually only used by me and it's only used in handheld mode. It's not actually connected to the TV like the other switch. But what I like about the new OLED switch is I like the stand on the back. It's so much more sturdy than the previous model. Plus, of course, the OLED screen is so much nicer. So I'm going to come back to the shelving unit in a couple of minutes, but let's take a look at the desk setup next. Now this setup was actually only going to be for a few weeks. It was just something I wanted to build, test out, and then I would pack it away again. Well, that was over 5 months ago now, and it's been used a lot more than I ever expected it would be. The chair that I'm using is the Herman Embody, and this is in collaboration with the Logitech, so it forms part of their gaming range. Now I've said this before, but this is the best chair that I've ever used. It looks good and it is incredibly comfy to sit in. Now I use this on the carpet and it actually rolls and moves very well on it. However, I have still put a floor mat down just to protect the carpet more than anything else. The desk that I'm using is from FlexiSpot and I opted for the full black version, so that's the black standing legs and the black top. I rarely use it in standing though, it's practically only used in the sitting position. On the top there's the 27-inch LG GP950 monitor, and this is I think LG's fastest gaming monitor right now, or at least it was when I ordered it last year. But it's not far off the same spec as the TV that I've got in terms of the response time and the gaming modes. Hooked up to the monitor is my PlayStation 5. Now I mentioned before that it usually sits under my TV, which it does, but I often move it here for certain games. So if I'm playing story-driven games or racing games, it'll be on the TV. Games like Horizon, GT7, Cyberpunk and Spider-Man. But when I want to jump on a game like Vanguard or Warzone, I will usually move it to the desk. There are two reasons for this. One is I like sitting upright in the chair, it just feels better. And two, I usually play COD in the evenings. So instead of taking up the TV, my wife can watch Netflix or game on the Xbox while I'm on the PlayStation 5. It's only for an hour or two, but nobody wants to sit and watch me on here. Moving the PS5 only takes me a couple of minutes, as I actually have two sets of cables. I simply unplug it from one setup and move it over to the other. I don't need to move the cables as well. You'll notice that I'm using the midnight black plates from PlayStation, and I've added a matte black wrap in the middle covering up the glossy panel. Next to that, there's a wooden controller stand from Geek Made Designs. I prefer this stand over the other one I've got on my shelves, as I prefer the way that it sits upright. On the other side, there's a pair of SteelSeries Arctis 7Ps. And these are currently my favourite headset for the PS5, and these are sitting on a wooden headset stand from Grovemade. I love the style of this, and if you're interested in it, I actually have a 10% off code in the description. Now, although I don't use a keyboard or mouse on here, I still have a felt desk pad on the top. I think it breaks up the solid black top. This again is from Grovemade, and it is super soft. Plus it's great for putting my drinks or snacks on while I'm gaming. Finally, the cable management. I've tried to keep as many cables out of sight as possible. Most of the cables are stuck underneath the desk using either 3M tape or these little black plastic clips. Cable management is one of the cheapest and easiest things you can do to completely transform your setup. I will literally spend hours doing this on any setup that I build. Okay, so in between the TV and the desk setup, I have this shelving unit. Now this was from a company called Next, and I've had this for about 4 to 5 years. I wanted something to display all of my gear, controllers and merch just in one place. Now these shelves are really heavy. It's got a full metal frame and wooden planks, and it feels solid. I get a lot of questions about this, but unfortunately I don't think they make it anymore. On the top shelf, I've got a few of my headsets. There's the PlayStation 5's Pulse 3Ds in midnight black. Then we've got the Xbox wireless headset and the Apple AirPods Max. Over here, I've got the Last of Us Part 2 Ellie statue, and I actually bought the collector's edition just for this statue. The detail is incredible. Next to that, I've got a PlayStation glass, which often moves around my room. In the corner of this shelf, I've got a Google speaker, and I use this for voice commands like turning the lights on and off. But this is the shelf where I keep all of my controllers on show. Most of the time they are just sat here, unless of course they are charging in the cabinet. And as you can see, I've got all of the PlayStation 5 colours so far, and I've got a few of the Xbox controllers as well. I would say my favourite Xbox controller right now is the 20th anniversary, which launched a few months ago. I've got another stand from Geek Made Designs, and I love the way it displays the controller. But I'd say my favourite PS5 controller, the DualSense, has got to be the purple. It's definitely the best colour that we've had so far. I think I actually prefer it to the midnight black. And if you've not seen this controller before, this is the 20th anniversary PS4 controller. I actually sold most of my old controllers off, but I still kept this one along with the limited edition console. But that 500 million edition console will not be sold. It's currently boxed up and it's in my loft. Next up is this N64, but it's not just any N64, this is my actual console from my childhood. And of course it's got one of the best games slotted in, and that's GoldenEye. Now in my loft I've actually got all the original boxes, games, controllers and accessories for the N64. I should probably do a video about it one day, maybe even test it out on the TV to see how it looks. Then below that I've got a table football and a few other bits, but nothing else really to show. Next to the shelf I've got an IKEA lamp which is fitted with a LifeX bulb. Then I've got another lamp over by my sofa, again an IKEA lamp with another LifeX bulb. This means that all of the lights in the room, including the bulbs and the TV, all sync together through the app. So when I want to set a theme or a mood, I can control them all in one go. And quickly moving back to the TV area, this is the sofa that I'm using. So it's from Next, which I ordered it around the time that I did my last TV setup tour in Feb 21. It then came about 3 months later. I opted for this dark fabric with a dark wooden feet. It's pretty plain, but it's comfy and it actually looks quite nice and minimal. It's very big though, it's actually a 4-seater and it will easily fit all 4 of us on when we're watching a movie. Next to that I've got this armchair, and this is called the Sherlock. It used to be over by the shelves, but I obviously had to move it once I built that desk. It's either used by myself or my cat, but mostly my cat. Something else that I have over by the shelves is this footstool. I'll grab and move it on a night when I'm sat over here and it's perfect for chilling with. It's got the cable knitted design and I like the colour as well. And finally, down the side of the sofa I've got this little side table. Now this has just got my TV or my Apple TV remote here with a fake plant and a candle. It's also somewhere where I can put a drink on a night as well. And here's the whole room. This is the room that I probably spend 80% of my evenings in. Whether I'm watching movies on the TV or I'm gaming between the desk setup and the TV, I try to have a pretty chill night. Now although it's not a full RGB gaming setup in here, I've tried to keep the room looking clean and minimal but with a gaming focus. The idea was to create a room where it could be used for gaming, movies and to entertain. But here's how it looks during the day with the white lights, and here's how it looks during the night with all of the RGB vibe. It's awesome to see how a few lights can completely transform the look of the room. Oh, and two things I wanted to mention, as I do get a lot of requests about this, and that is what paint do I use on the walls, or what is my carpet? Well, the paint that I use is called Dulux Chic Shadow. I've literally been using this since I moved in 2012. And the carpet is called Royal Studley. It's the thickest carpet and underlay that I could find, so it's proper soft and nice to walk on. As for any future plans for this room and my setup, I do have a few that I'd like to do this year. I'd quite like to upgrade my speakers to the newest monitor audio version. The new design that they've created looks really nice, and it would then match my new sub. We know the LG C2 and G2 TVs will be dropping over the coming months, and I would like to take a look at one of those. I'm not sure if it's going to be worth upgrading from the C1, but I am tempted this time to go for the G2 instead. As for the desk setup, well, I would consider going for a 42-inch C2. It's probably overkill for the desk, but I do like the colours and the picture of an OLED. I also think the 42-inch could be perfect for this desk. And finally, one big change that I want to make is I actually want to move house. I've owned this house for 10 years now, and I am ready for a change. I've got some ideas and I've recently started looking, but the list of things that I want is pretty long. Hopefully that will happen this year, and when it does, I will cover everything on the channel. So is there anything else in my setup or this room that you would change or you would like to add? I'd love to hear your suggestions, so please drop those below. Well, that was my 2022 room tour. Overall, I am really happy with it. It's got a good balance of gaming and a minimal style, and it's somewhere that my family and I can relax, game and watch movies. I actually quite enjoy being in here. Okay, so you've made it to the end of this ridiculously long video, and thank you for watching. And if you drop a 2022 room tour in the comments, I will give you a thumbs up, as I know you're still here. And here's another couple of videos you might be interested in watching next. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel and turn those notifications on so you don't miss my next upload. You can also follow me over on Instagram and Twitter. Until next time.